Hey friends, and welcome back to Quest for You. This is week 1 of 2 where I'm going to replay some of my previous episodes, and as I'm recording this intro for you, it is late Sunday. You'll hear this episode tomorrow. I just came home from work. We have a big project going on in the office, and as I was working I saw alerts coming up on my phone of yet another tragedy. And on my way home I was thinking about the episode that I'm going to share with you today, and I picked episode number 8, Nasib. That's a story of 2 women, fictional story, but very much based on reality. And just like in fiction, we have a lot of tragedy in real life as well, and it seems to be happening more and more. It's almost a weekly thing now where people somewhere have to pass through tragedy. And I'm going to work on an episode. As soon as I'm back, I want to speak about this because I know it's on everyone's mind. And as it happens more and more, it stays on our mind and we're trying to figure out how to deal with it. So I'll be working on an episode just for this topic. But for today, I want to leave you with episode number 8, because this book, The Pearl That Broke Its Shell, really inspired me and stayed with me, still thinking about it from time to time, which is always a good sign that it was a good book. So with that, I'm hoping everyone is well and safe out there. My heart goes out to you if you are in some form or another affected, especially in Texas. If you know a little bit about my background, lived there for a very long time, so Texas has a place in my heart. So I hope everyone is well and safe. And for those of you who are not, that you can find someone that you can lean on during those difficult times. This is always what has helped me in the past. People by my side. So with that, starting off this week on a little bit of a sad, melancholic tone, but still wishing you a wonderful week. And I talk to you tomorrow. Much love. Enjoy this episode. Good morning, world. How are you? Here's another episode of Quest for You. And I wanted to ask you, how is this journey so far for you? I know we're just a few episodes in, but I'm curious if you can give me some feedback on my website. That would be awesome. I just like to hear how these episodes are resonating with you, if you're getting anything out of them. If so, what you would like to hear more of. And I just want to see if I'm reaching you. And I have another question. Have you heard about Nasib? I had not until I read a wonderful novel that is all about Nasib. Here's a quote from this novel. People who are beset by tragedy once and twice are sure to grieve again. Fate finds it easier to retrace its threads. It's kind of a sad quote. So is this novel. It's a little bit sad. And it had been a while for me that I read fiction. In the last years, I had mostly concentrated on non-fiction books. Books that focused on leadership, motivation, productivity, anything that would help me improve and contribute to my quest of being a better person. But occasionally I turn to my greatest passions, which is reading and getting lost in a novel, in a good novel. And I strongly encourage you to do the same, because novels sometimes can teach us just as much as leadership books. And so the novel that I'm talking about today is called The Pearl That Broke Its Shell. And it was just one of those that you just can't put down. You just have to keep reading. And the author of this novel is Nadia Hashimi. She was born and raised in the US, but her parents are both from Afghanistan. And they left in the early 1970s, just before the Soviet invasion. And she grew up surrounded by a large family that was all from Afghanistan. And so she was very close to the culture, and it played really an integral part of her life. So this book tells a story of women in Afghanistan, and it kind of goes back and forth between the story of two different women at two different times. One of them takes place in the early 1900s, and the other one at the present time. The author created two different storylines, I think, so the reader can compare how the lives of women in her country has changed or not changed in those years. And so here is a very brutally honest story. You're going to read about child marriages, warlords, political unrest, drug addiction, corruption, and above all, the abuse of women. And in the author's words, I wrote this story to share the experience of Afghan women in a fictional work that is made up of 1,000 truths. It's a story that highlights that your gender is of ultimate consequence. And the word Nasib appears numerous times. The word was new to me, but it became quickly obvious to me what it meant without having to look it up. And here's another quote. The hell with Nasib. Nasib is what people blame for everything they can't fix. To give you a Wikipedia definition, Nasib, and there's different ways to spell it, but in the one in the book it's spelled Naseeb, is an Arabic term used in many languages, including Indonesian, Malay, Persian, Turkish, and so on, and it means destiny or fate. The literal meaning in Arabic is share, but it can be understood as one's share in life and thus his destiny. So, to me, the author did an amazing job illustrating the struggles of these two women. The outside struggles are as hard as they come when you imagine living as a confined woman under complete control of an often tyrant husband and a social structure that really devalues your status in society. Even in your own family, you're not safe. Aside from your husband, there is a mother-in-law, there's other wives, children of other wives, and so on, and each come with their own challenges. But there are also the internal walls that these women hit. Nasib is one of them. Growing up being told that your often miserable life was meant this way, that the decisions that were made for you are part of your destiny, and then seeing that there are other options, just not for you. Imagine a life like that. But guess what? Many of us believe something quite similar. We just don't call it Nasib. We do sometimes call it destiny or fate. The life that we're meant to have, the cards that were drawn for us, the path laid out this way, the hand we've been given, and there's probably many other expressions we have. We say or think it many ways when life doesn't work out, or the way we've imagined. When we lost another job, when our parents fight yet again, or our marriage ends in divorce, when we didn't get what we were hoping for so badly, the job we really wanted, the good grade on the exam, the well-deserved promotion at work, the attention from our significant other, and so on. Whatever it may be, the feeling that this is how we were meant to live often creep in. So we believe in Nasib. Some of us were told so by our parents. I recall my grandmother. She was the eternal pessimist. A wonderful woman, but a pessimist. And she would always say that luck just does not run in our family. So subconsciously we adopt things we hear as children, and they guide our life until we notice that they are not true. And sometimes we never notice. And then other times we simply tell ourselves because we tend to judge the rest of our lives based on an outcome of one or two events. So first of all, I truly encourage you to build some fiction into your life. And if you decide to read this book, you'll see that your Nasib is controlled by only one person, and that person is you. There are inspiring examples in the book that show how you don't have to be a victim to your circumstances, no matter how difficult they are. And if you think that this is just the stuff movies and books are made of, think again. Read any non-fiction book on leadership, and it most likely tells at least one story of a famous business person that made it from dishwasher to millionaire. It's what all our lives are made of, big or small. We overcome obstacles daily. Now I realize that huge change is never easy. But that's also the beauty of life. We get to change our nasib. Every one of us. We do it on a daily basis when we make decisions, small or big decisions. All of them change the course of our lives. So what's so remarkable about this book was that these women were not able to decide a whole lot about their lives. They couldn't even leave the house without permission. So if you imagine being inside your home 24/7, no access to TV or internet, basically no access to the outside world, then what does it leave you with? Not much, right? And yet they found a way to overcome. And so can you. Whatever your obstacles are, there are ways around them. The limits may be set by the outside world, but the power to overcome them comes from within yourself. So today, I think there are two things here we want to contemplate. One is what came to mind the entire time as I was reading this book was an eternal gratitude for life. I would venture a guess that none of you who are listening to this podcast have to live under circumstances comparable to the ones described in this book. So think about how amazing your life is because you get to choose. It's a privilege to be able to be free. There's so many people in this world that are not. And then the next thing is, think about some of the areas in your life that you think are your nasib, meaning you don't think you can change them. Or is it that you don't want to change them? Are you just comfortable? Is it because you don't know what's after? Fear of the unknown. So take a little and search. Are you living with beliefs that are inculcated into you as a child? Or are you indirectly deciding the rest of your life based on one failure you had in the past? Think again. Tomorrow is an unwritten page. What are you going to write on it? I'm going to leave you with one last quote from this book. The human spirit, you know what they say about the human spirit? It's harder than a rock and more delicate than a flower petal. Until next time, much love.